Hello, Planeswalkers! Tyler here, and for a first time in Tabs for Two, there is no Andrew. That being said, it is not just me sitting here rambling to myself for half an hour. I have with me a friend from Twitter, at KindnessMtG, aka a Very Nice Planeswalker.
Hello, happy to be here. Hopefully living up to the handle.
Which, yeah, if that handle seems very specific, it's because your whole, Twitter thing is, because, the way that I learned who you were was, because you had specifically added me, around when Companions had first come out, and everyone was, the lines were being drawn in the sand.
Oh, yeah.
Do you like Companions or do you not?
Well, do you like Companions or is this the end of Magic again? Exactly. That was...
And I had commented, I think, it was either on Shivam or on Josh Lee Kwai. I had commented on a notable, someone notable in the Magic community with, hey, as nightmarish as the Companion thing seems right now, I'd rather that Wizards tries stuff, and not everything is gonna, not everything is gonna stick, not everything is gonna be, some things are gonna bomb, but I would rather that they try new stuff to see how it works rather than have the game stagnate.
Yeah.
And you had specifically added me with, hey, thanks for pointing out this thing about wanting the game to continue to evolve and not stagnate. And from there I was like, hey, thank you. And then I went through your Twitter page and it's just you thanking everyone for the small bits of kindness that they just do in the community. And I was like, this is the most wholesome thing I have ever seen.
Well, thank you. No, I appreciate it. Yeah, when I had not been on any kind of social media since about 2016. And then I started to get back into Magic, and it's something that exists in any online community, especially around a game. Most of the discourse skews negative. A lot of the time because it's funnier. It's funnier to dunk on stuff. And dunking on things can be hilarious. I thoroughly enjoy it a lot of the time. I love a good roast. But when I tried to think about, what positive contribution can I make to the Magic community, the thing that came into my head was just thanking people. I think an absence of gratitude is a big deficit in any community. And the more gratitude you have for people who work hard, people who advocate for those who don't have a voice, people who just bring good into a community, the better that community gets. So yeah, my account is mostly just me making up nice things that people theoretically did and then thanking them for them. It's a fun thought exercise.
I like that even in your little, the bio on your Twitter, you had to put, hey, comments are sincere, not sarcastic.
That came up when I did the tweet, you're brainstorming right.
Oh, yeah, because the whole meme of, no matter what you do, you're brainstorming
wrong. Yeah, and I was like, okay, there's no way I can post this without people immediately reading it as sarcastic. So I think my only option here is just I'm going to put this out there. They're going to believe me or not, and, we'll see. But I like it. In terms of the contributions I can make, one, it's pretty easy, and two, hopefully it leaves the community a little bit more positive.
Yeah, because like you were saying, it is fun to dunk on things. In fact, I'm pretty sure we're both about to dunk on me because of one of the commander decks that I play, like what I mentioned right before we started recording.
Sure.
But if it's nothing but dunking on, then it's like when you're playfully bullying your friends. It's fun, and if you do it every now and then, obviously they know you're joking.
Yeah.
But if that's all that you're doing, then whether you're joking or not, it'll start to stick, and it'll kind of, leave a sour taste in everyone's mouth. So it's it's nice to see the positive aspect of this stuff rather than just everyone dunking on it. Because I personally think the companions are really neat. I hate Yorion, and I hate I hate Yorion, I hate Luris, and I'm starting to hate the Golgari one. Umori.
Umori, yeah.
And, rest in peace, adorable Izzet Otter.
Yeah.
But
Luri, we never knew you.
But Karuga...
Lutri,
yeah. But Karuga is my big fat idiot son who I love.
Yeah, there you go.
Because, I have an episode of our Tribal Talk, or the very first episode of my Tribal Talk series, I talked about hippos and wanting a legendary hippo. And then they're like, here's a hippo dinosaur. And I was like, you know what? It's a start. I'll take it.
There you go. You do what you can.
But in the spirit of that, I figured what we would do for today is just look at what, feel-good stories we have of our time in the Magic community and just kind of share those.
No, I love it. Sounds great.
I know you said you had a couple of them off the top of your head, and so being the guest, why don't you start?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I know we each have a story of how we got started in Magic, and that seems like a great place to start. Yeah. I grew up in Anchorage, Alaska, which is funny now, especially after the recent Polygon article. Alaska has gotten into the Magic news as the birthplace of Commander. I
never saw that.
Yeah, so there's an article out from Polygon, basically where they detail Commander pretty much got started at military bases in Alaska. The idea was first birthed in Fairbanks. I got family all over Fairbanks. It gets to -50 there in the winter. It's a really fun spot. And then it gradually moved its way down to Anchorage. And so that's at least the story that is told of how the format got started. I knew nothing of that at the time, back in 2001. I started playing Magic when 7th edition came out. So that was my first set. That was my introduction to it. But our first cards that we actually got, first Magic cards we bought, were at a pawn shop in Seward, Alaska. Shoutouts to whoever knows where that is. And we bought, do you know those World Championship decks, the gold border ones?
Yes.
Yeah.
I run in one... my very first Commander deck that I kind of really put together, I still have it, I'm still upgrading it, is a mono-black zombie deck.
Nice.
That focuses on sacrifice, and so I wanted a copy of Phyrexian Tower.
Yeah.
And because I play Commander casually, I'm all about big, dirtily, stupid Magic.
Hence Karuga.
Which is also why I happen to have a Corvold deck. Anyway, I have a Phyrexian Tower that is gold bordered because I was like, I could either pay $30 for a quote-unquote legitimate one, or I could pay $8 for this gold bordered one. The deck is sleeved. They're opaque sleeves. You can't see the back. There's no reason not to.
Well, and I love that the Commander community is open to that. That's not viewed as you're proxying. So those who have big problems with proxies are you can't do gold border stuff. My understanding is the community's fine with it. But sitting in a tent on a Boy Scout camping trip, this is where we learn how to play Magic with World Championship decks. So we're trying to learn Magic with cards like Necropotence. So that made for a fun experience. There you go.
Why would you try to teach yourself with that card?
We had no idea what we were doing. We were so in over our heads. So naturally, that translates into me being this incredible deck builder. And I find my way
was that sincere
into this
or
place.
Was that sarcastic?
Oh, unbelievably sarcastic, based on the next chunk here. So I find myself at Wayne's World of Collectibles on Huffman Road in Anchorage, Alaska. And weird connection again, Wayne's World of Collectibles eventually became Tier 1 Games, I believe it's called, which is the shop featured in the Polygon article talking about the history of Commander. It was owned by a high school buddy of mine for a while.
Oh, neat.
So, yeah, I have all these weird connections to things. But I go into this shop, and the woman who ran it had no idea what was about to be unleashed upon her. Because I come in with my 100-card 5-color pile, and this wasn't Commander. Commander was not a known commodity at this point, at least as I knew it. This was my version of a standard deck. And I asked
the good old
if she would
100-card standard deck.
Oh, exactly, yeah.
I feel your pain.
And I asked her if she would let me teach people how to play Magic in my infinite 12-year-old wisdom. This turned into a regular F&M community that became my closest group of friends throughout the rest of high school. You know, back when we had Planeswalker points and DCI numbers, I look back through my history and I still see friends from high school in those games that are recorded there. So, you know, what started in a tent with world championship decks and had a brief pit stop as a, 5-colored 100-card standard pile before I learned what deck building was, became this thing that, is still a part of my life going on 20 years later.
Nice. God, what was it? So I learned how to play back in high school. My sister's boyfriend at the time showed me how. And because of that, I have a deep hatred for Johnny and the card Pacifism.
Okay.
He played mono white. He had this like mono white. I don't know if you would consider it a standard deck. I didn't. Obviously, at that time I didn't know what different formats were. So I played Yu-Gi-Oh a lot. Like,
okay.
Yu-Gi-Oh was my card game as a kid. And I've actually still got. I sold off my collection like a year or so ago, but I've still got one deck, my Blue Eyes White Dragon deck, because that was my favorite card. I've actually got a dragon tattoo that was supposed to be a Blue Eyes White Dragon. That, if you're familiar with the creature, it's got a very rounded, almost shark-like looking head.
Yes, and I have this memory of it.
And the tattoo I have is like tribal designed, and so I gave it to the tattoo artist, and it looked like an orca with claws. And he was like, "Yeah, your appointment's in a week. I'll get this all set up and ready for you. It'll be fine." And then I show up for a week, and he goes, "So I redrew the dragon's head to make it look more like a dragon and less like a shark."
Sure.
And I had like this thing of like, do I tell him that it's specifically supposed to look like that, or do I just go with the generic dragon? And I was like, well, I'm not always gonna love Yu-Gi-Oh. I'm probably always gonna love dragon, so I just went with the generic dragon. So anyway,
that's a good read.
Yeah. And so Yu-Gi-Oh was my card game, and with Yu-Gi-Oh, I mean, I think there's like GOAT format, which is I think where you can play cards that are banned, and then there's Yu-Gi-Oh. It doesn't have different formats like what Magic does. It's got one ban list
for everything.
Yep. It's just It's got one thing, and every now and then new cards are printed that interact with old cards and break them, and so stuff has to be banned. There's stuff on the ban list now that I don't think people ever thought would be on the ban list and whatnot. But it was a real shock to the system when I got into Magic, and it's like, oh, standard, modern, what is all of this, and why do they have different ban lists? It was all new to me, and so he was like, here, no, I can teach you how to play. And he had this like mono white deck that was just life gain. It was the three cards that I distinctly remember are the original Johnny Goldmane, Pacifism, and Platinum Angel, the one that when it's out you can't lose and your opponent can't win.
And your opponents can't win. Yeah.
And because I had no cards at the time, he had like 4 of these like long, slim, like. I live next to train tracks. He had the long, slim cardboard boxes that you could fit like one row of cards in. He had like 4 of them, and he goes, here, this is my collection. Go through it, build what you want. You can keep whatever deck you make. And I'll teach you how to play with that. And so I was going through, and I found Pestilence Demon and Halo Hunter, who Pestilence Demon is actually like relatively good, and I still use him today because he's the card Pestilence but on a body.
Yeah, okay.
What is it? 5 black 7/6 flying demon, which now I have refined tastes, and if my demons cost this much and they don't have trample, I will turn up my nose to it. But single black Pestilence Demon deals 1 damage to each creature and each player. It kind of sucks more than regular Pestilence because he's also hurting himself.
Yeah.
But I saw him, and then Halo Hunter is like, oh god,
Is that like protection, like kills angels or protection from angels or something?
It is from Zendikar, and it is 2 black for a 6/3 with Intimidate, and when he enters the battlefield, destroy target angel.
There you go.
And so I found these 2, and I was like, this is what I want to build a deck around. I think demons are super cool. And so he was like, all right, cool, so you're going to play mono black. Because at that time I was like, you can play multiple colors?
Oh, that's mind-blowing when you first discover that. It's how I ended up with my 100-card pile.
No, exactly, because like I would put... I just went through and I found all the coolest looking black cards that inevitably costed 8 mana.
Oh, yeah.
And shoved them all into a deck with like 40 lands. No, first it was 10 lands, because I was like, well, the most expensive thing here is 10 mana, so why would I need more than 10 lands?
I love early deck building logic.
Because
it makes it's just such a fond memory.
Because he basically told me like the constraints for how to build a deck, and then just like went to go do stuff. Like he went to go hang out with my sister, and he's like, I'll be back in like an hour or whatever, and we can play with whatever you've built. And so he just let me at it with his collection. And I was like, okay, so 10 lands, because that's the most expensive thing that I have here. And he said it's got to be at least 60 cards. I have found like 80 that I like.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all under 10 mana, so I can probably just play 90 cards with 10 lands.
Yeah.
And everything worked out fine, and I casted everything on curve. None of that was sincere. And so we sat down, and he goes, wow, you got a large stack of cards there. And I was like, yeah, I couldn't really bear to cut anything. And he goes, well, let's see how you do. And I lost.
Sure.
Very quickly. And he goes, how many lands are you running? I was like, 10. And he died. I saw his soul leave his body. And he goes, if you're running a 60-card deck, you generally want like... If you're running 60 cards, you generally want like 20 to 25. And I was like, I miscounted. But... So he sat down with me and was like, here, let's see what we can cut. Let's see what we can replace. And he helped me actually put together something playable.
Nice.
And he ended up like giving me like 2 of those like cardboard sleeve, or 2 of those cardboard boxes. And he goes, here, start your collection with this. And
that's great.
I mean, I ended up like, it turned out a bunch of friends from my high school were into it, because when I started playing, I believe Zendikar, our first go at Zendikar was what came out.
The first trip to Zendikar.
Yeah, what came out in like 2011, because that's when I started playing.
That was in the midst of the... I took a pretty big hiatus that I'll talk about later, but that was in the midst of that.
Yeah, that was around when I started, because I remember when I started playing in college, Theros, or when I continued, because I kind of dropped it for a little bit and then I picked it back up in college. Theros was the big one. But yeah, so I ended up fighting a bunch of friends that I had at school played it, so we were like meeting in the library before like the bell rang. It was like, hey, we got like 20 minutes before we got to be anywhere. Let's play a game. That's where I ended up buying my first Planeswalker off of a friend of mine, Soren Markov, the original one.
Okay.
The one who is like almost an auto include in any black commander deck, because it can make an opponent's life 10. I bought him for like $10, and now he's like 20. So I was like, hey, good deal.
I love it. It's great. I love how, the finance side of Magic either makes you like in this absolutely brilliant, clairvoyant investor, or just the biggest dunce. Yeah, because you had like this pile of Umezawa's Jites you didn't know what to do with, and they're just gone now.
Or all the people that are talking about like, man, I remember when I sold off my Wheels of Fortune when they were like $15, and now they're $100 a copy. I mean, I had a moment like that in that I had bought a copy of World Gorger Dragon like 2 years ago for like $0.25. And He's like, who's playing World Gorger Dragon? He's got one like really narrow combo that he does with the Isolde the Blood Witch and Animate Dead. And it was like, he's a quarter, no one's playing. He's a bulk mythic. And then Croxa got printed, and that combo became way easier to do, and now he's like $18, and I ended up trading him for a Sliver Hive Lord. I was like,
nice.
At no point, one, did I ever think I would be in a position where I'm now building a Sliver Commander deck, and two, did I ever think that World Gorger Dragon would be the thing to get me a legendary Sliver.
Yeah, that would be the high value thing.
Yeah, but so it was just cool. He taught me how to play, and then I started like seeing it everywhere. I started seeing my friends who played it. I started because at that point I had been watching like Loading Ready Runs content for years.
Okay.
I came across them when they started doing when Graham and Paul were doing Unskippable for The Escapist. And I had been watching their stuff for years, and then as soon as I got into Magic, it was like my computer and Google and YouTube knew, and they were like, hey, you watch Loading Ready Run stuff, and it looks like you're Googling Magic now. Mm-hmm. Did you know? And that's how I got into it. It was
that's
just
great.
It was like a whole new world had opened up, almost literally, because I started like seeing it everywhere and seeing like all my friends that played it, and it was just super cool.
The game definitely has that way of helping you find people, which actually I've got another story that builds off that if we want it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I mentioned this hiatus that I took because I played from 7th edition to the end of the Kamigawa block. Nice. That was where I took a step back and I didn't touch Magic for a decade.
I'm getting the distinct impression you are a good chunk older than I am.
I'll turn 31 next month.
You are not as much of a chunk older than I am than I thought.
Not so much.
I turned 27 this year.
There you go. So I stopped at Kamigawa, took about a decade off. It's funny, I popped back in randomly, and this is one of the reasons why I enjoyed finding the Planeswalker Point site when it existed, was I saw, like, wait, apparently I did the Khans of Tarkir pre-release? Like, I have very little memory of this, but I'm like, oh, I guess I did do that at some point. So I briefly dipped my toe back in at Khans, and then
Khans was kind of when I, like, really went into it, too, mostly because, like, as I said earlier, dragons are my thing.
Oh, and yeah. Well, Khans was incredible. I wish I'd gotten into it then.
And it was Dragons of Tarkir that I was that I really like started to sit down and actually learn about different formats. That's when I tried to play Modern with a standard deck. Don't try to play Modern with a standard deck.
Ooh, yeah.
Just because I was like, I can use more card pools. It's probably not going to be as competitive. Oh, I'm dead on turn 3? Cool.
But you have to try it at least once. Like, we've all got to do that thing where we show up with, are just like, oh, what's Legacy? I'll give that a try. I have this. I got a pile of random elves over here. I'll bring that
Halo
to the
Hunter
shop.
Is going to guide me to my vintage victory.
Yeah, exactly. That's tier in that, right? It's A tier. The number that goes next to the word tier there is maybe a little bit more ambiguous. So I took this big long break, and I actually only just recently got back into Magic. Right before War of the Spark came out. I moved into the area where I'm living now with my family, and I didn't know anybody. And I thought, how am I going to get to know people? How am I going to make friends? You talked about Magic sort of opening up this world where once you're in it, you find all these other people who are connected to it. It's kind of that secret language that we all speak. And so I thought, I can get back into paper Magic. I know if I get back into paper Magic, I'll find people. I'll find somebody to interact with. So I looked up, because Standard was what I knew, so I looked up a budget Goblin Calamity list, put it together for, I think, like $40 or something, and took it to an F&M. And I'm thinking, we'll kind of see how this goes. And it's, I think, the second round. I'm up a match. I managed to win my first match. I'm 1-0 against this guy, and I have no idea, but this guy is very widely known as one of the best players in the entire shop. Everybody knows him. He plays every format. He's a genius in Pauper, and really well-respected, very high-level player. Well, I've got Experimental Frenzy in the deck, and I play it. And I look at the top card of my library, Experimental Frenzy. For anybody who doesn't know, it's 3 and a red. It's an enchantment, and you can't play cards from your hand.
Yeah, the card that goes, hey, your randomly shuffled deck is going to play Magic better than you do.
Yep, yeah. It's a bit, it subtweets you a little bit when you put it out there. You can play with the top card of you can look at the top card of your library at any time and cast it. Actually, I think it's play it, because that lets you do lands.
Right, yeah. I've got it open up. 3 and a red, enchantment. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may play the top card of your library. You can't play cards from your hand. And for 3 and a red, you can blow up your own frenzy.
Yep,
it's also got
you can blow it up.
Because that whole Ravnican block, like the flavor text was just on point. And this one's got turns out coffee is the weird ant of invention.
Mm-hmm. Which I love. This is now canonical proof that coffee is a multiversal beverage.
Yeah.
Which I'm a big fan of that.
Which just reminds me, on a quick side tangent, of
of course.
I think it was a Twitter post I'd seen the other day where there's a guy on Twitter, I can't remember what his name is right now and I hate myself for it, but he calls them flash fics, where he just does little like fanfics in the span of a single tweet.
Huh.
And it's really well done. Magic needs to hire him so that they have some semblance of a story. And he did one where it's Vraska and Jace just in like Vraska's apartment, and Vraska's like is like making coffee. And she like turns to Jace and goes, "How would you like your coffee?" And he goes, "Black is my soul." And she responds with, "Got it, 4 sugars and like 2 shots of cream." And then somebody underneath commented with had replaced Jace with Liliana, and Vraska goes, "Hey, how would you like your coffee?" And Liliana goes, "Black is my soul." And Vraska just hands her a cup of burnt coffee grounds. And she goes, "You know what? Fair."
Oh, it's good. I like it. I love microfiction like that. That's a lot of fun. Magic Twitter has some fun stuff on there. There's good stuff to go looking for.
Oh, yeah. I feel sorry for Shivam, though, because I think he gets all the bad stuff.
Oh, man. Anytime. Oh, boy. He's a guy I've said thank you to a lot, if, nothing else, to try to counterbalance the sheer amount of negativity I think he gets to carry. Him and anybody else who's a prominent member of the Rules Committee or the CAG. Yeah. I can't imagine what that's like. But, with more positive interactions. So I had Experimental Frenzy out, and I look at the top card of my library, and I cast it, and then I sat there. And my opponent looks at me, and he says, "Keep going." And I'm like, what? Like, I didn't understand what he was saying. And he talks me through how Experimental Frenzy works, explains to me the real power of the card, and why Mono Red wants to run it. And all of a sudden, he just unlocks my deck, and I end up winning that match. Like, this guy functionally threw the match by teaching me, his opponent, how Experimental Frenzy worked. And I just couldn't stop thanking him for it. And his take on it was, Standard's a format I play casually. This isn't a format I play to be really competitive. I just come here because I like the people. And, I think you're a new player, and I just wanted you to have a good first time. And all it took was that interaction, and I was sold. I was right back into it again, because I thought to myself, like, okay, at least at this shop, which shout out to North Valley Games in Phoenix, Arizona, if at least at this shop people are like this, I want to be a part of this community. And it kicked off some of what I'm trying to do now. We're being a positive influence on the community. So I guess if there's a lesson to this, like, don't undervalue what one positive interaction in a game of Magic can do for somebody.
Oh, yeah,
especially,
no,
this channel, I know we do a lot of Commander stuff, especially in the context of a Commander game, with the inherently more social dynamic there. So when you're wrestling over, do I tell people that this deck is like a 5 or a 7? Do I do this really spiky play that's going to take advantage of this new player who I know doesn't know what's going to happen? Like, just weigh that. Because one positive interaction, it got me back into the game. And I'm certain it can do that for
exactly.
others.
And I feel like one negative interaction is probably all it would take to kill a new player from this entirely. Because if you're sitting,
they sit down and somebody tears off on turn 3 with a deck that they're starting off like, oh, it's casual, don't worry about it. And then all of a sudden on turn 3 they're like Sensei's Divining Topping into some ridiculous combo. You're like, well, this isn't what I signed up for.
This isn't fun. Where's how many copies of Halo Hunter are you running? I'm running 6.
That's our new metric. People we argue a lot over the subjectivity of the power scale of Commander. That's what it is right there. It's a binary. It's one or the other. Are you running Halo Hunter? And that tells somebody everything they need to know about the deck.
Exactly. God, and I actually had like that actually transitions very nicely into the other story that I have.
Cool.
Where how I started getting into Commander, where I think I had said to you before we started recording, like, I don't remember where I learned about Commander, but all I remember is I was in my apartment. This was like some years later. I've now finished college. I've moved in with a couple friends from high school, and the local game store that Andrew and I still use, Moondragon Games. It was like within walking distance of my apartment, and so I was like,
nice.
I was like, I had learned about this Commander format. I was looking at this collection of cards that I had, and I was like, I wonder if there. And so I started building, and I was like, I wonder if there's anywhere around here where I can go play Commander. And so I started like looking up like game shops in the area and if they had any Commander events, and sure enough. Not only was there a place within walking distance, about 2 hours from when I had Googled it, they were doing a little Commander tournament. And I was like,
oh, that's perfect.
I don't think the stars could have aligned more perfectly. So it's like, I need to build something and I'm going to go to this. I ended up like calling them and like confirming like, hey, are you guys doing like a Commander thing at like 8 o'clock? And they go, yep. I was like, what do you have to do to play in it? And he goes, you just got to show up. It's not an official Magic, or it's not an official Wizards thing. We just do it at the shop for fun, like once a week. If we got enough people, show up. It was specifically Two-Headed Giant Commander. So you would show up and they had to have, enough people, and then you would get paired up, and then you would play 2v2. And he goes, just show up. If we have enough people, we'll do the tournament. If not, we'll all just probably play casually. And I was like, neat. And so I started going through my deck, or I started going through my collection, and I had a copy of Dragonlord Silumgar, who takes permanents when he comes into play, and he keeps them for as long as you have them.
Speaking of Dragons of Tarkir.
Exactly. And I had a bunch of the artifact creatures from New Phyrexia that had Infect.
Oh.
And then I had a bunch of cards that stole permanents, including, I think it's called Corrupted Conscience, which not only mind controls something, but also gives it Infect. And I was like,
gosh.
I looked up what Infect did, and I was like, oh, poison counters. This should make things way easier. I can get to 10 before I can get to 40.
10 is smaller than 40. I believe my math holds up on that.
And so I built this I called it Big Sil Has Halitosis, which is another name that I took from Loading Ready Run. Because they have an episode of Friday Nights where they're talking about, I think there's James, Kathleen, and Paul, and they're talking about like the Elder Dragons, and James is like talking about Dramoka, and he goes, so all the +1/+1 counters are supposed to be like scales, right? And he's like, oh, how do they get the scales? And Kathleen's like, well, maybe Dramoka's just got gross dragon eczema, and they just kind of slough off, and all that Polygon would have to do was like give her some lotion. And then Paul comes in with, speaking of Dramoka, like, what does she breathe? It looks like light. And Kathleen goes, I don't know, but all I know is they say Silumgar breathes poison, but I think it's just bad breath. And then James comes in with, you really think an Elder Dragon like Big Sil would have halitosis? And so that's what I called the deck. I was just like, yeah, Big Sil's got halitosis. And it was just a super janky build that revolved around like a handful of infect cards and a handful of stealing effects. And I showed up to play it, and right off the bat, the guy who was running the thing goes, hey, just to let you know, for Commander, we do infect at 20. And I was like, yeah, no, that adds up. 20 is still less than 40. So, and they're like, so how, like, you know, we haven't seen you around here before. What's your skill level? Like, how much do you play? And I was like, this is my first event. This is my first deck. I have no idea how it's going to perform. And they go, great. We're going to partner you up with probably the best player that we have in this store because it's going to even out.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the dude's name, but he was super, super nice. And he was like super, super supportive. And he wasn't like, you know, he was sitting... Obviously, you know, it's two-headed giant, so he can see my hand, and, like, I'm showing him the stuff, and he goes, hey, you know, this combos off really well with this, so if you play that, and I respond with this, we can do this and this and that, and he was just like, and he goes, but if you don't want to do that, like, what do you want to play, and I can see, like, what we can build off of that, and so it was super cool. He wasn't just, like, running the whole show. He'd be like, hey, this is what I would do, but what are you thinking? And we ended up stealing both. I ended up playing like Silumgar to take one of the opponent's commanders who he had Voltroned up.
Oh,
and
wow.
Silumgar enters the battlefield, and in response, my partner casts a thing that entered as a copy of Silumgar. And so he took the other guy's commander, and we killed them with their own commanders.
Oh, it's so
and
good.
We ended up, it was just like, there was 3 teams, so it was a super small tournament. But we ended up winning. And I got a foil promo Blighted Fen. Taps for colorless, 4 and a black, tap it, sacrifice it, target opponent sacrifices a creature. And it was the first like prize card that I had ever gotten, and it had like this alternate art, and it was foil, and it had the cool little like promo star like stamp on it, and it's in my mono black.
Yeah, the shooting star.
Yeah,
type
and it's
thing.
in my mono black deck, and so whenever I play it, it's got that nice little memory of, hey, this was the first time that I really played Commander, and this is the first prize I won. And so, like, the zombie deck that I have, it's not my favorite of all my Commander decks, but it's, like, the nearest and dearest to my heart. And it's got this card in it, and it's great. And every time I play the card, because the card's not amazing, but it does what the deck wants to do, and the deck focuses on making people sacrifice stuff. And so it's got that nice memory tied to it.
I love those memories, and Commander's great for that. If we have time, I've got a couple kind of like Commander memory stories if we have time for those. Just, get that much more.
I think with the time we got...
If we need to be done, I understand.
I think we can get one more story in.
Okay, cool. I'll do my favorite game of Commander so far, which this is where I out myself as a total Commander neophyte. I think I've maybe played 5 games of Commander total.
Fantastic.
Because... I got really into Commander, and then COVID happened. And my family doesn't play necessarily. But my favorite game I've played so far, so I've got a couple decks at the moment, building a third. One's Ayula, being from Alaska.
I have an Ayula deck. I have, I think, 14 built, ready to play Commander decks that I'm still just like getting upgrades for, and I've got another 6 that are being constructed. But Ayula, I have Ayula, again, thank you, Loading Ready Run. Originally, I was calling the deck Bear Force 1, but then I decided I call it the Second Amendment, or the Russian Second Amendment, because it's the right to arm bears, because it's equipment.
I like it. Oh, it's nice.
Bears and equipment. So you get Ayula out, I give her like Black Blade Reforged, I give her the 4 Bears Blade, and I give her Darksteel Plate, and I let her go ham.
Oh my gosh, that sounds like fun. I like that a lot.
But yeah, I call it the Russian Second Amendment.
That's really good. So I've got Ayula. And then the other one I built was Torbran.
Oh, yes,
because
Torbjorn.
yeah.
No, you said his name right. It's just everyone calls him Torbjorn because of...
That's true, with the Overwatch. Yeah. And because my thing has become, at least right now, I like to help a Commander game keep going. I don't mind when a game goes long, but when I show up to play, I like to get more than one 6-hour game in.
We recorded a gameplay video last night that's going up in so this video we're recording now is going to be up in July.
Sure.
The video Andrew and I recorded last night with 2 of our friends is also going up in July, where we played a game of Commander over Cockatrice. That game was
nice.
3.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Partially because our friend Drew has a Feldegriff group hug / group slug deck that as soon as it gets going, like, if you don't have trample, but you try and make, like, big, like, swings at opponents, he goes, no, and he gives them a 1/1 hippo to jump block with.
Oh my gosh. So as soon as it gets going, the game stops going, it sounds
more or less,
like.
yeah. This game could have been over in, like, an hour, and it ended up, going for 3.5, and hilariously enough, he was, I think he was the first one eliminated.
Well, there is some justice then. So I built Torbran partially. I do monocolor a lot, mostly for budget reasons.
Understandable.
Because once you get into land bases, that can get expensive.
Oh, yeah, no.
And I sat down for this game. I'm running Torbran. The guy to my right is running Krenko.
I like it when games go long, so I'm going to play a commander that accelerates damage.
Mm-hmm. So, trying to keep the game going, trying to keep it moving. And the guy across from me, it was just a 3-person pod. He was running Chainer. So we've got Chainer, Torbran, and Krenko. And
new
I
Chainer
managed
or old Chainer?
Oh, gosh.
Mono black or Rakdos?
I'm trying to remember. What's the one that you, make nightmare copies of things?
I think that's the original.
I want to say it was Out of Torment.
Yes, that would be the original. Because
that'd be the original
one,
okay.
Because we've got Nightmare Adept, who is the new one, who's 2 black-red. Mm-hmm. Discard a card, you may cast a creature card from your graveyard this turn, activate this ability only once each turn. And then there is Chainer Dementia Master, who is all nightmares get +1/+1. He's also just 3 black. And for black and pay 3 life, put target creature card from a graveyard into play under your control. That creature is black and is a nightmare in addition to its creature types.
Yep, it was that one.
Yeah, that's the old Chainer.
Yeah. So I'm running Torbran, and I managed to ramp into a turn 5 Malignus. So 3 red for a star. Its power and toughness are each equal to half the highest life total among your opponents rounded up. And damage that would be dealt by Malignus can't be prevented.
This thing.
So it's a house. You drop it at the beginning of the game, it's a 20/20. And I'm thinking, okay, now I get to start some swinging. My goal of making sure that Commander games keep going, make good progress, I have achieved that goal. And then the first person it hits is me. Because I play the Malignus, goes around the table, and the guy running Krenko plays an Act of Treason.
Oh, no.
So the first person Malignus smashes into for 20 damage is me. And, I couldn't stop laughing. I think I annoyed a couple people in the shop because of how hilarious this moment was to me. And that happened, and I'm thinking, I'm hooked. If these are the kind of bonkers interactions I can get in this format, I don't ever want to stop playing this.
No,
not only is it this great tool for self-expression, but I get punched in the face for 20 by my own Malignus. I'm here for that.
I love stuff like that. I've got a deck that I built on Cockatrice that I call... Mm-hmm. So I found out through Twitter that the Kavu were I guess, in design, before I guess they were given their name, they were lizard dingoes, which... that's kind of what they look like. And so I built a Kavu tribal deck that ran as many threat and effects as I could get, and I call it Lizard Dingo Took Your Baby.
I love it.
And I played. I ran that deck in. Andrew and I have a new series that the first episode comes out in June. We call it Commander Coliseum.
Okay. Nice.
That's what we were recording last night, which is our second episode. It comes out in July. And I ran that deck, and our buddy Drew was playing with us and ends up like cheating into play this like 5/7 Eldrazi, and I was like, neat. And I took control of it, hit Andrew with it for 5, and then flung it at Drew. And so it was like, neat, you're going to play this big scary creature. I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
I'm going to punch someone with it, and then I'm going to throw it back at you.
I love it. This is what should be done with Eldrazi.
Oh, yeah.
They should be stolen and then punted at people.
No, that's what the whole deck wants to do. Is it wants to steal stuff, and then it wants to. It's kind of like a Brian Stoutarm deck where you're just flinging giant creatures at people.
So much fun.
I ended up losing so quick.
But you get to do the thing. That's what I love about Commander.
I was super excited when I got to do that, because I was like, I'm sitting on like 4 lands, and I was like, I have just enough mana that I can do what I want to do. And it was super cool. I was like, I don't care if I lose at this point. I did what the deck wanted to do, and I ended up getting to do it a few more times. So good.
Oh, I love it.
I think that is where we will call it, though. It looks like we're coming up on almost like 50 minutes at this point. Thank you for sitting in on this episode with me and talking with me about some just some fun moments from our Magic pasts.
Yeah, I was happy to. It's nice to get to remember.
We'll have to get you onto an episode of Commander Coliseum or something else at this point. We'll definitely need to bring you back on. But
sounds great. Love to be on.
We have been partners with. If you enjoyed what you heard, if you enjoyed the ramblings of 2 people talking about how bad Halo Hunter is, and who willingly play Infect, be sure to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and ring the little bell so that you never miss an upload. Later, Planeswalkers.